African Americans in this country are the only groups. They have no culture. It depends on who you meet, where you meet them.
But currently there's not an African American culture?
No.
Yes, there is.
What is it?
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We will survive.
I came across a clip that I shared with you.
Yes.
Actually, last week I played a clip from this guy. He has a podcast. His name is Franck Zanu, Z-A-N-U. Somebody in Nubia actually shared this. And it's like the more you hear from people, the more you realize how woefully uneducated we are about each other. And it's on purpose. So I'm going to set the clip up. Before I do, though, I want to ask this question of the audience, and I want to ask a favor of this audience to be open-minded. I want to have a conversation with you today that is maybe a little tender for some folk. I feel like we've been also conditioned to go to our respective corners and come out fighting.
Come out fighting.
I want us to sit in. I want you to listen with your third, fourth ear. You don't have to agree, but I need us to not be emotional about the conversation that you and I are going to have today, because this is, I believe, is crucial to us getting to the next place.
Absolutely.
And because for 400, 500, 600 years, we have been conditioned to not just hate ourselves, because the hate of ourselves was a facility to keep us working and also fighting each other so that we could keep working for the master, right? So we had to fight each other, because if we work together, then we fight the master. But if we fight each other, then the master gets to keep extracting our labor. And today that plays out in the diaspora wars and all the other stupid things, while they literally are picking the pocket of Africa, all of these different people. We fighting about who's foundational, who's not. And I'm not casting aspersions, because yes, when we talk about the reparations, let's have that conversation as a separate economic, yes, who deserves it, but it shouldn't be the opportunity to start bashing people.
That's right.
And if we're going to have a conversation, if you're from another place, talking about Black Americans, have an understanding of the fullness of of this experience. Have some institutional knowledge about what this is before you comment on it. And maybe you shouldn't comment on it if you ain't in it. Maybe you should. I don't know. But I'm going to play this clip, and I would love to hear from people. And I definitely want to hear what we have not. I just sent you the clip, and I said, I want to know what you think on the air. So we haven't had a pre-conversation. This is Franck, F-R-N-C-K, Zanu. He has a podcast, the Zanu Project. Play the clip, Smiz.
African Americans in this country are the only groups. They have no culture. It depends on who you meet, where you meet them.
But currently there's not an African American culture?
No.
Yes, there is.
What is it? Name 2 value systems in the African American culture.
Value system?
Yes. Name 2 taboos in the African American culture system. Name 2 traditions, by the way, in the African American culture system. There is no value for freedom if you don't understand what it is. The concept of free. You have to have a foundation on which it would balance when you ask for it. Civil right, they give it to you. You have no culture. Nancy, you've been here, born here. Why would you be surprised if I say African Americans don't have a culture? What, twerking? So anything
but I feel like African American culture has definitely
you say
mainstream.
No, you say the word, the African American culture. What is it? Okay, fine.
Like hip hop.
Oh,
not hip hop. I mean, I don't want to. Yes, I feel like
you haven't thought about it. It's fine. Don't make things up.
I'm not making it up.
Okay,
I feel
then educate me. You feel. You should know. You were born and raised here.
Yes, but I have a Haitian.
Are you African American?
I'm Haitian American.
That's correct. Do you see why you were being specific with that? Because anybody who encounters you already knows you before. If they know you are Haitian, at least 2 things comes to their mind.
What is that?
If they've been to Haiti, They can look at work ethics and they say, yes, Haitians, I know them. Service industry, they know where they do well. Food, they can say yes. And even language, Creole.
Right.
And they can say, oh, I love Haitians. Because they saw the culture in abstract before they encountered you. So people go over the bridge of your culture, your tradition, your customs, and that helps them to know how to
address it.
Exactly. I'm saying to you, any people who ask for these things, which are abstract, freedom, for example, independence, for example, and civil rights, for example, voting rights, for example, you must have a foundation on which these things are going to balance. Because the people there have to uniformly agree with consensus. This is our way of life. The do's and the don'ts involved in our culture. Even if you have to create an artificial culture.
Is that why the civil rights movement is considered dead?
It's dead and useless. They got it, but they could not balance it on any foundation.
Crazy.
Jesus. I said, how did this man get a platform? Okay, so he's a photojournalist, he's a journalist, but the man, Frank, was born, Frank, F-R-N-C-K, and I knew that based on the spelling, was born in what was known as the French Dahomey, because it was colonized by France, Benin, colonized in 1872. Did not get its independence until August 1st of 1960 and renamed itself Benin. But how did you get your independence in 1960, sir? How? Why are you sitting there in Western clothes, speaking English, knowing French? What is, Dr. Black, I was holding myself and she said hip hop. And I said, so you're talking to somebody wildly ignorant. You threw a question at them that they were unprepared to answer. She looks like she's co-signing his hypothesis or his premise that black Americans have no culture. And I was like, why aren't you sitting with a scholar, sir? So when you first saw this and listened, what went through your mind, Dr. Black?
Absolutely. I wailed with laughter. I really laughed. And the reason I laughed is because I said, oh my God, this is what Western culture wants in terms of pitting ignorance against ignorance. Because what he's saying is insane, and she has absolutely no ability whatsoever to answer the question. The first thing that I find so profound, the man's name is Frank, right?
Right, Frank.
If somebody read The Coming, there's a character in The Coming named Frank. Frank's problem in The Coming is Frank is so Western centered in The Coming, right, that Frank beats his own people on the ship, hoping that by desecrating and by demeaning his own people, hoping that the white crewmen will actually favor him. This is in The Coming. That's so crazy. Right?
Is it?
It is. It literally is. Now, very quickly, number one, not only is there an African-American culture, but anyone who studied African-American culture, I think, would probably agree with me that African-American culture rests at least upon two things, many others, but at least two. It is a culture of subterfuge. It's a culture of deception. It's a culture, come on, somebody. It's a culture of signifying. Black existence in America is a double-tongued culture. It's the ability to outwit that which seemingly has power over you. That's the genius of black culture in America. That's the genius of being able to laugh when really we don't find nothing funny. It's the genius of being able to say, yes, massa, making them think that we're really in submission to them when we're stealing chickens behind their back. But black culture it's a culture of subterfuge, y'all. Like, for example, one of the most central things to African-American culture is a thing called quilting. The reason
I was thinking that.
And the reason I'm bringing up quilting that most people have missed, we're piecing quilts. In other words, our ancestors, our mothers, were putting pieces of things together to make a holism. Not just the quilt. It was a metaphor for piecing this child with this other child who was sold away. This one wasn't my biological child, but it's my child now because I'm raising him. That's the quilt. The quilt is not just the covering on the bed. The quilt is how do we piece together an inheritance? Hey, how do we piece together a lineage? How do we piece together a legacy that will cover black children while we're in the land of bondage? And here's how you know.
And create a map to freedom.
Listen, you're taking it off my tongue. You're taking it off my tongue. That's right. Create a map that's in the middle of the pieces. And what's so deep is to make it so beautiful that even white people want it on their bed. Come on, somebody. Come on, somebody. We created a thing called gospel music. Gospel music is part of the subterfuge culture. Why? What most people don't realize is gospel music, even in terms of the vocal cords, it gets higher about each 20, 25 years. When we first started singing, gospel music was in the lower ranges when we first arrived and started singing here in America, right? In the spiritual. Then when we go to the quartet, then it gets higher and higher and higher. Nobody has really explained why is gospel music so high in terms of range. If you listen to a Ricky Dillard, if you listen to a Kirk Franklin, if you listen to a Kurt Carr, the ranges are so unbelievably high. What most people don't understand is why. Because we're doing subterfuge. We're really God. The same thing Grandma said quietly. Why are we screaming it at God? Because God, this is.
So, well, you got to repeat that because your voice went out.
Okay. In other words, yes. In other words, we're screaming these parts. We're screaming these lyrics because we're really screaming at God. And why are we screaming at God? Because God drew up a covenant. God drew up a contract with my grandmother. And the terms have not come to maturity yet. And we're trying to figure out, God, and hear nobody. The screaming is actually our way of saying, God, but we still with you. But this right here, God, is taking a little too long. What you doing? In other words, gospel music is in direct conversation, not with the Bible, but with God, which is why gospel music and the lyrics of the Bible often are in tension and in conflict. Because one's got to understand, if one does not understand the role of the trickster, and to understand that the trickster is really the cornerstone of black existence in America. If one does not understand the double-tongued nature of black language, of black ebonics, etc., if one does not understand how you exist in two places at one time, you have no idea what black culture is.
Or as Du Bois would say, the double consciousness.
The double consciousness. That's it.
So as he was talking, I was saying to myself, he doesn't know what culture is. If he could sit and say, because again, there's no African liberation without the civil rights movement. How could it be dead if we are here? If you were able, in Nkrumah, Lumumba, all of them studied where? Where were Traore? Where did he study?
Come on. Absolutely. And Nat Turner, speaking of Nat Turner, Frederick Douglass, all of our ancestors in that era, they were somehow able to learn to read and write by reading this thing called the Bible, right? They were able to read. And what's funny, though, is they could take the same text, the same words that their oppressors used to enslave them, and turn around and say, God told me to kill you. Because they came from a culture that understood the art of subversion.
Okay. The duality. I feel it. So how do we, because what I don't want to do is excoriate somebody who is so woefully ignorant. And I don't think he's trying to, I think he feels like he's saying something really powerful, and maybe in many ways, I don't know what his goal is, and maybe we should invite him on so I can ask him. Let's do that, Smith. Let's reach out and invite him on because I want to find out what the motivation is. Because, taking a thin slice out of somebody's commentary is unfair, but I'm using this as a larger conversation because I'm hearing a lot of noise right now at a time that I think is so crucial for us to get on the same page as far as, and I don't know if we got to be subversive. I think we should be bold. I think you're right. We need places where we can strategize. And we need to build those institutions. Everybody, I've been encouraging people to get involved in organizations. Yes. And if the organization, don't sit and complain about the organization. Get in there and run it.
Right.
Get in there and remix it into something that is going to be useful. Let's not complain about these organizations. Get involved. But I'm also thinking that our boldness, I was just saying this to Dr. Carr, is, we have been conditioned to ask for things. No, you take and demand the things that you need and want. We don't have to hat in hand this. This is our right as free people to get and demand what you should have in the world because we're gonna be fair about it. I'm not taking anything from someone.
But it's gonna be almost impossible to raise a people who do that while the lion is going to the Gazelle Academy. Okay.
Okay. All right. All right.
See, we're trying to transfer. We're saying, lion, what's wrong with you? Roar. And the lion is saying, is it safe to roar? Is it okay? I'd rather hop around if I have my way. You're like, because the lion has been in the Gazelle Academy. See, and until the lion is reared by lions who know that they're lions and are unafraid of being lions and do not care that the gazelles disagree, the lions are walking around with big lion's mane and they're trying to figure out how to be safe. See, Nat Turner knew he was a lion. He knew it. These folks talking about they might kill me. He said, about Harriet Tubman, they might capture me. You're going to invite Frederick Douglass to do the 4th of July speech, and you thought that man was going to stand up and talk about how wonderful and independent this republic is? Did you think that man was going to say that? Because he was free.
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We will survive.